cards. Alright, moving on to Paladin. Forbidden Healing. Spend all your mana, restore twice that much health. I like Forbidden cards. I think this is probably the worst Forbidden card because I don't like the fact that it doesn't do anything onto the board. I think restoring health is nice, but I'd rather be restoring health in like the way there's the reason why I don't like Forbidden Healing is that it doesn't actually do anything onto the board. Usually, like, I'd rather attach a minion. There's like actually relevance to Healbot being 8 health restoration, but also developing a 3/3 to help you fight back onto the board a little bit. Forbidden Healing could also be one of those scenarios where it's like Healing Touch. It's like, yeah, I restored all that health, and maybe this is the reason you beat Aggro Shaman. Maybe this is the reason you beat Freeze Mage, because Freeze Mage Alex Strazes, and then you're like, oh, just kidding, I'm back up to 30. But those are like more fringe. I guess like in that scenario, it's like, oh, it's definitely very good. But what I don't like is that one, it takes you have to like sequence this specifically to not consume all of your mana, and then two, it's like I think as Paladin, you're so board centric that you'd rather just be like proactive instead of reactive. But I mean, this is probably like pushing Paladin to a direction of being control oriented. So maybe the fact that you can just keep camping, waiting, equality consecrate, Forbidden Healing. That's probably a possibility. But I would say that it's like an average card, maybe even below average. Like, it definitely does something. It's not like this card, for example, Divine Strength, which I don't think it does much. People said this is a Magic the Gathering card, which is almost the exact same cost of stuff. Divine Strength feels like a very inferior version of Blessing of Kings. But like the 1-2 stat difference does make it trade worthy, and it passes like the test of like, well, you know, for 1 mana you get 3 stats, and it's like, yeah, that's like pretty good. But I don't think this is like the swing you're looking for. Unless... No, I think you'd rather just play like Blessing of Might. Because you're playing like Argent Squire, you're playing like Blessing of Might. Maybe if you want to play a third Blessing of Might, you play a Divine Strength, and then you just Divine Favor every card back. It doesn't feel wildly impressive, though. It feels more like a situational, like, meta call. Decks are very fast. I need to be able to play my fast Paladin against other fast decks, but I want to be able to trade because I need a win on board. Like, say Aggro Shaman completely dominates the ladder, and in Aggro Paladin, the only way they can keep up is to trade on board first with cards like Divine Strength, and then push, and then use Divine Favor. That's more like a situation I can see it. But it does have flexibility, too. That's what's nice. Selfless Hero, give a random minion, friendly minion Divine Shield. This feels like it's very good in Arena. Because you develop it to 2/1, you trade, and then whatever 2 minion you play in Arena, you get Divine Shield, which is nutty. Because Divine Shield, anything in Arena can be really strong. I'm not like a very big fan of the fact that it's random, though. It's kind of like Cog Hammer status, so you can definitely control it. But I like that. I like that it's like 1 mana as opposed to one of these situations where it's like compared to this, it's like anomalous, or like even the other stats like the 2 mana 2/2 that buffs all these things by 1/1. It's like one of these scenarios where you need to, like, because it's so fast, this actually gives you relevance to what you control. If you play like a 5 mana Divine Shield stuff, first of all, you no guarantee that the minion will land on anything. But second of all, it's like too slow for it to might even matter. Like, the reason why Divine Shield's so good in the early game is because you can dictate trades, which set the tempo for the rest of the game. So I think Selfless Hero is, it's pretty solid. Especially for aggro decks. Oh my god, I actually didn't think about it. For aggro decks, Selfless Hero is actually pretty freaking strong. If you attach it to anything and just keep hitting face, then it's just like ridiculous. It's so hard to trade into. Valvin Inquisitor is one of those cards that you build your deck around because you need to make it Murlocs. It actually has the most broken and OP card art in the game for the hero power. Just take a look at this real quick. Just want to show you guys as we take a second to look at this. This is the card art for a Murloc hero power token. How freaking cute is this? This is blatant power creep in the game. Strictly better than a Silverhand Knight. You guys had problems with people killing Tiny Finn. I have no idea how I'm ever going to fight against this guy. Look at him! He's like staring into the sun, making a prayer of faith. Standing with the light, holding a hammer that's just as tall as him. This card is so full of cute irony that it's blowing my mind. Oh my god, I can't handle it. I need to take this away. It's too much, man. It's too much. I don't think Murloc Paladin's really going to be a thing with Anyfin, but maybe it ends up being a fun deck for people to play. Either way, it's very curious that they gave this to Paladin. I feel like Shaman's the easy inclusion. Like, the media is like, well, Shaman has those Neptulon stuff, and like, why not? Well, Neptulon rotates out, but you get what I'm saying. It has everything is awesome. It feels like it means more, but I don't think they want to give 1/1 Murlocs to Shaman. They want to make it feel like a Paladin, because that's what the hero power is. I uninstalled. I can't handle it. All right, Mushi. If you choose to reinstall, let me know, man. Okay, back to it. I gotta close the art windows distracting me. I actually I actually went and downloaded that card art specifically. That's how much of an impact emotionally that Murloc made on me. Light in the Darkness is similar to Raven Idol, except it gives it +1/+1. People look at this as like Unstable Portal with choices. Except it doesn't give you 3 more mana to play with, because Unstable Portal reduces its cost by 3. As such, if you compare it to Unstable Portal, I don't want to trade off the flexibility for the tempo. I could see it being played in a scenario for Control Paladin, because Control Paladin is most likely hero powering on turn 2 anyways. But it doesn't fit existing Paladin archetypes, which makes me excited, because it doesn't really fit in Secret Paladin, doesn't really fit in Aggro Paladin. It kind of fits in mid-range a little bit, but not really. Mid-range wants to climb onto the board early. We'll see. We'll see. It's like okay, but it's like slightly below average, I think. It's like 2 mana is a lot to invest into it, because you're discovering a minion. So in the end, you have to think of it as like, make this minion cost 2 more, because say you pick like a 3 mana like Spider Tank's gonna rotate out. Just say you pick up a Chillwind Yeti, and you're like, oh sweet, I can play this as a 5/6, but you gave up 2 mana to do it in the process. It's not as binary as that, but you get the idea. Like, it makes minions cost a little bit more because you're investing that much more mana. Rallying Blade, give +1/+1 to your minions with Divine Shield. I don't think this card text is extremely relevant. I think the fact that Paladin has a way to do 3 damage consistently now is actually huge. A lot of people are going to be like, well, compared to Fiery War Axe, you basically trade off a mana to give +1/+1 to Divine Shield. It's like situational, but the fact that it's a weapon and it gains card advantage means Control Paladin once again can be a thing. Coghammer is a little bit awkward sometimes, because not only 3 charges is hard to get rid of with True Silver, but also because you want to play Coghammer later in the game for better trades. Rallying Blade is pretty underrated card. I think this actually might be one of Paladin's better cards out of all of them. And also, this is like a little bonus. You might have this with the what's it called? The Selfless Hero. It might have some synergy. Might have some synergy there. This is my pick to probably be not the strongest card on paper, but definitely the coolest card. The fact that anything that has 1 health gains Divine Shield, and it's a summon, so it's like Knife Juggler. Anytime you play like a Murloc Tiny Fin from your hand, or if you summon a 1/1 token from the Razorfin Hunter, it gains a Divine Shield. That's pretty dope. I love it. It's like Hobgoblin, but the opposite direction. All of a sudden, Magma Rager has relevance over Ice Rager, so suck it. Just kidding. It's not really... Well, maybe you put Magma Rager in it. I don't think so. I'm just saying that this gives a lot of interesting deck choices, and it single-handedly makes Token Paladin a thing. You play Steward of Darkshire, and then look at this upcoming card, Stand Against Darkness. Let's just say, hypothetically, you do get it off, okay? Steward of Darkshire. Now, imagine it says, summon 5 1/1 Silverhand recruits with Divine Shield. Are you guys still laughing at that card now? Probably not. I mean, it's one of those things where it's like, holy crap, because each 1/1 is kind of like a 2/2 now, or even a little bit better. So, it's just like, don't underestimate Steward of Darkshire. I think it's one of the coolest cards in the set. I don't think it's format defining, but I'm really looking forward to see if anyone can build it. Blood Knight meta? Yeah, I guess so. You can just play that and then Blood Knight. We'll see. See, the difference, because some people are saying, like, this is a lot of situational stuff, is, like, this is a build-around card. There's a difference between this and a card that says, if Cthulhu has 10 attack, gain +5 health. This is, like, you build your entire deck to make sure you draw Steward of Darkshire and things synergize around Divine Shields. So that's why, there's a fundamental difference in the comparisons there. Ragnar's Lightlord is a legendary that I think a lot of people will probably look at and be like, this card doesn't make any sense. And they're kind of right. Like, Ragnaros is supposed to be a fire lord that brings wrath upon people. So lore-wise, it's definitely, like, out in left field. But it is kind of cool that it's like, imagine a parallel universe where Ragnaros is a good guy. The fact that it can heal itself is really strong. If it trades into a minion, you know, and we're talking about turn 8 here, turn 9. So if it kills, like, Boulder Fist Ogres, like 7 6s, 6 7s, it can heal itself back up to full, and that's a really big, powerful effect. Not to mention that, let's assume that Ragnaros is, there's no minions on your board. You play Ragnaros, and it's a heal for 8 on yourself. And that might actually be really valuable for anti-aggro, or like maybe trying to stay alive to a Druid Savage Roar, which still exists. Maybe he has 3 minions on board, and you're like, oh crap, I died to a Savage Roar. I just play this Ragnaros and heal myself up back to 22 or something, you know? Very, very powerful effect. The nice thing about Ragnaros too is that he demands attention, because this will win you games single-handedly. Ragnaros will heal itself, or heal him, or heal you, put you out of range, and just like a card with stuff on paper has immense value. I like it. It's one of my favorite legendaries, like one of my top 5 legendaries in this set, in terms of like I like the flavor, and I like the effect a lot. All right, chugging along, guys. Priest. Forbidden Shaping. Spend all your mana, summon a random minion that costs that much. This kind of flexibility, again, is really important, because Priest doesn't have many... Like Priest, especially Control Priest, is often subject to, like, drawing spells. Just watch Zetalot stream. Sometimes he just has nothing to do when he hero power passes. Forbidden Shaping gives you a major amount of flexibility. I think this card could be... really important for Control Priest to always make sure that they have plays. So, you know, like back in when Wild was still existent, you would Light Bomb, and then you're like, well, I have 4 mana, and most stuff that I play as a Control Priest is just like, you know, 3 mana, etc. Forbidden Shaping could kind of fill that niche depending on how things go. The removal is definitely a lot weaker in Priest these days, but like Priest struggles with hitting stuff on curve, which is why in Arena, Forbidden Shaping actually might be one of like the best cards Priest can draft. Embrace the Shadow. This turn, your healing effects deal damage instead, which is like Alkanized Soul Priest. It feels like feels like Inner Fire Divine Spirit versus Confuse. It's like redundancy, and I don't see why I would play this over an Alkanai. For 2 more mana, I get to develop a 3/5 onto the board to fight against other minions. I guess the caveat is that this next turn your heals right back to normal. But if I'm playing the Alkanai Soul Priest, I understand fully. I'm like fully aware of what I want to do. Plus, the Alkanai hero power on Priest class is usually much better than the Priest healing. Usually. Because 2 damage that you get to choose anywhere is really strong. So I feel like Embrace the Shadow is a little bit weak. Or very weak, sorry. I find little application of it. Hooded Acolyte, whenever your character is healed, give your Cthulhu +1/+1. Very good stats. 3/6 on 4 mana is one of the sweet spots for this mana slot. 4/5 being another one of them. And these days, 3/6 seems just as good. Whenever characters heal, because it has so much health, it will get healed a lot. It's got great synergy with Holy Nova, Circle of Healing, which isn't going anywhere. Very reliable option for Cthulhu Priest. I think cards like this is what really gives Cthulhu Priest a lot of life. No pun intended. Shadowward Horror is like one of those cards that people are like, ha, this card will never see play. But if there's enough like token or like aggro decks, remember this hits Knife Juggler stuff too now. You might see a one of. It's the only thing that I really hate is that it's 4 mana. If it was 3 mana, I would say like, ooh, okay, maybe we can talk about playing it. But there's also another caveat with it is that it destroys all minions, so it destroys your own. That's the thing I'm not a big fan of. But maybe you build around this in Wild, for example. Maybe you play Nerubian Eggs and you can put like Faceless Destroyer and then put this. But those are like really obscure corner cases. Overall, this card more often than not will just sit dead in your hand. I do like that it's killing the Murlocs though. I love that kind of art, like Hellfire, etc. I rate this card as like a very, very, very situational tech card. No different than Hungry Crab or, I don't know, freaking... Black Knight's not really even corner case anymore. People are playing it. But you get the idea. Eater of Secrets. I guess those are it's like on the level of that. Shifting Shade is not a card to be slept on. This card is definitely like okay. It passes like the normal vanilla test of stuff. Like the fact that it draws you a card. Moz compared to Azure Drake, I really like that comparison. Because it develops stats where it immediately draws you a card so it replaces itself. On top of that, you kind of get understanding what your opponent's deck is, and you Thought Steal it. In control matchups, it's actually very good. In aggro matchups, it helps you play really fast. And the thing about Thought Steal is Thought Steal for 1 less mana gives you an extra card, but you don't play a minion. This, at the cost of 1 card, for 1 more mana, develops you a 4/3 to fight against other stuff. So I like it. It's pretty decent. Darkshire Alchemist, in my opinion, is the best priest card in this set. When I saw it on stream today, I was like, wow, this is actually really good. Because the effect is very flexible. You can restore health to yourself or to your minions, or you can use it with Alchemist. Soul Priest, of course, is the first thing that jumps out to people. But also the fact that it's like it heals you for 5, but it's also a 4/5. So it most likely will fight at a reasonable pace. One of the biggest downsides to Healbot is like it's only a 3/3. It trades to a juggler, you know? It's like it dies to a pitiful 2-drop. Bloodfin Raptor. Darkshire Alchemist, she ain't about that life, you know? She's just gonna continue to trade and restore health, and if you play 2 of them, they can just single-handedly command the board. This is, in my opinion, the strongest priest card in the set. Also, she actually has purple hair.
What?
I made this joke like 3 times.
Wow, my mind is blown. It's actually true.
But she actually does rock some really rad purple hair, so I am instantly a fan. Sevic80, thanks for subbing, man. I hope you're enjoying the card review. Thank you so much. Now, contrast the previous card with Power Word Tentacles. For 5 mana, you get to attach a 2/6 to an existing body. Now, for 5 mana, that means you're foregoing... First of all, you're assuming that Priest has control of the board. Or not even control. You're assuming Priest has presence on the board, which is one of the hardest classes to establish presence because Priest cards have a big, giant target on them to be removed. Otherwise, they hero power it. So this is really hard. And then the worst part is it feels like even in Wild or Arena, which is much more likely candidates for some of these cards to maybe find obscure play, is like they get out-muscled by Valence Chosen, which is also a common card. Not a fan. I'm not a fan. The art's pretty sweet, though. It's like one of these, like, you know, these goth emo girls end up becoming very tentacly. Yeah, it's just kind of like standard. Standard millennial chick that you'll meet at, like, a rave. at this point. You can definitely touch He Goes to Raves. She's definitely rolling on something. Oh, man. Twilight Darkmender. Battlecry. If your Cthulhu has at least 10 attack, restore 10 health to your hero. This card's also pretty good. Every time I've played this card on stream today, I was like, this effect is insanely good. 10 health is nothing to scoff at. It's so powerful to like make sure you single-handedly stay in the game. And the stat line is reasonable. And it's only 10 attack, which means it's very reasonable that you end up hitting it. Again, like, if you just play the Beckoner of Evil, if you play a Twilight Elder, you play that other dude that heals, and then you're able to get a little bit of plus attack. You might even be able to play this on curve. Even then, you might even play it on curve because the stats are so good. It's like Pit Fighter stats. It's like 11 for 5, which is very reasonable. It trades into almost anything. And, you know, you even, if it survives, you even get to use its hero power and just have relevant stats on the board. Very good card. I like it. Relative for Cthulhu decks. Obviously, if you don't have a Cthulhu deck, it's very mediocre. Herald.
Fan of Knives.
Keegs, she has purple hair. What face is actually true? I know, man. She's the one. If I ever find a girl cosplaying as Darkshire Alchemist, we'll have a lot of things to talk about. A lot of good topics. Easy icebreakers. I'll be in instantly. Herald Village. Summon a 1/1 copy of each other minions. It's an interesting card. It feels a lot like Vol'jin, where it's like, oh yeah, I can see an application of this card being really powerful, but more likely than not, it's a little bit too situational and not like powerful enough to just play. But it does have like great uses. The fact that you can attach to death rattles like Sylvanas or sludge belchers, you know, in wild, like that kind of stuff. Like it has a lot of application as soon as you have a death rattle, or even like an Emperor Thor's, like that kind of effect. End of turn effects, Ragnaros, etc. Onto Rogue. Bladed Cultist combo game +1/+1. Very, very good design, because by nature this is supposed to be like a 1-mana zombie chow, but you do need to give it a little bit of extra juice. So if you're backstabbing, that's the only way you can get it out, but that means your opponent has to play a minion. So if you're on turn 1, this is just a 1/2. So the dream is to coin Bladed Cultist, so you have 2/2/3s. But that's more of like a situational thing. That's why I really like the design of this card, because it feels like if it consistently gained a +1/+1, it's just too strong. If it just said 1 mana 2/3, way too strong. But as such, I like the design of this a lot. It feels like a great way to really outfit the Rogue deck with a lot of these small things. I'm not sure if it'll end up seeing a lot of consistent play, but I definitely like it. Good card. Journey Below, I think, is a sleeper card for being like very, very good. For like rogue decks that want to start etching to be slower. If you think about Museum Curator, and I know it's not exactly the same because Rogue and Priest fundamentally approach the game very differently, but Museum Curator only attaches a 1/2 body for 2 mana, and for 1 mana less, you get to play Journey Below and discover a Death Rattle card. And this also can be a weapon. So you can also discover this into a Perdition's Blade, and that Perdition's Blade is actually a pretty good tempo card if you can, like, especially if you don't have to put it into your deck and you can just like situationally pick it where it's very good. These kinds of things are like stuff that we don't think about when we're looking at this card immediately. So I know Museum Curator, again, is not a fair card to compare it to because Priest is, again, very different. But Rogue already is a class that's like on the verge of discovering a different way to play a board-centric game through the Unearthed Raptor, and I think this might really push it to its relevance, because that Raptor Rogue is just like missing a couple of tools, you know? It's got like some nails, some screws, and maybe a hammer, but like it's missing some of that extra, you know, WD-40 that really helps the engine go. So I think this is actually an underrated card. I know people might look at it and be like, meh, but I think it's okay. This card, Undercity Huckster, I think is actually very good. Probably like even slightly better than the legendary card because you can play 2 of them. Like it trades and it adds a class card to your hand from your opponent's class, and you can get anything from, and like most of the spells are pretty useful, but you can get anything from, you know, Moonfire, which already is okay to a certain degree because you get to use it. And the best part is though, you're keeping your card count high. One of the biggest problems with Rogue is that because you're establishing tempo so often, you're trying really hard to make sure that your card count doesn't run out. That's why you play Sprint and stuff, and Azure Drakes. And there's so many times as Rogue you establish tempo and you don't get to keep your card count high. But with Undercity Huckster, it's like another card that keeps that. And also it can be anything. It can be Tyrion if you're playing against Paladin. It's like really
this guy
insane.
Is so good at the game.
So I like this card a lot. I think it's one of the best cards in like this entire set. People like to compare it to Mad Scientist. It's definitely not Mad Scientist levels because Mad Scientist pulled a card from your deck, put it into play. This would be like play a random class card from your opponent's class. That would be the equivalent of Mad Scientist. Maybe even a little bit better. Tetris Graham is saying, I'll donate again since I got a quiet donation sound, but you missed my previous donation. Feels bad, man. Oh, I'm sorry, dude. Tetris 20 minutes ago said, what if Blizz made a Shaman card the same idea, but instead of 1/1s, it replaced all the random Shaman tokens into Murlocs with the same role, i.e. a Fiery Murloc, 0/2 Healing Murloc with adorably fitting art for all the random tokens. Good idea. That would be pretty cool, like if you transformed it so that it's like a Murloc totem. But I guess Blizzard just felt like it's very easy to understand because if you make that card, you have to like add a bunch of text to it. It's kind of like Justicar Trueheart, where it's like it's not obvious, and as a result, the design gets a little bit clunky. Right, Justicar Trueheart is not very clean design across every class. Versus if you just put in Paladin, it makes sense. Just transform the 1/1 Paladin tokens into Murloc tokens instead. But I like where your head's at, Tetris. It's good. Shadow Strike is like a improved backstab, like more mana, more damage. The thing about backstab was the best part about it though was that it's 0 mana. This costs 3 mana, but it's still like pretty strong. I think like 5 damage is extremely relevant. We talk about 4 damage being like very common, but 5 is usually the sweet spot for like when you're not afraid of removal. That's why Sludge Belcher was really good because it like withstood the first hit of Deathbite. Shield Maiden was like underrated. All these other cards that like had like Thorson, like Ancient of Lore, all of them had like 5 health, which just seemed enough to be out of range of Swipe, True Silver Champion, even in high implosion rolls back in the day. Like 5 health seemed to be that good sweet spot. Shadow Strike could be that thing that helps Rogue consistently gain tempo. By the way, this looks exactly like Zero Tool from StarCraft, which is also pretty sweet. Like something people don't talk about is like, is Hearthstone really finding ways to incorporate other Blizzard lore into their universe? This looks exactly like a Protoss Dark Templar, man. I don't know about you, but that looks really familiar. Southsea Squid Face, give your weapon +2 attack. I don't know, man. It's like is this the card that killed Blade Flurry? If so, is it worth it? Probably. It's the free deadly poison onto a 4/4. Pretty good, at least on paper. You're probably going to. The tricky thing is the timing, because it's not a battle cry; it's a death rattle. So it's not like you play it and then you get the weapon attack, so you don't get the immediate tempo. You have to trade into it, meaning you have to keep the weapon up and not do anything. It's good because it requires some nuance with how you play it. Also, what's nice is that you're not required to play Pirate Synergy for this to work. Normally, the way Blizzard designs these pirate cards is like, Death Rattle, if you control a pirate, give your weapon +2 attack. And then you're just like, oh, like, I guess I'm not playing this card. Zeril is one of the cards that people are really sleeping on. This card is, I mean, maybe not anymore, but this card can be super strong. The fact that it's like Toshly, you get Battle Cry and Death Rattle, but you get random toxins. Again, you keep your card count high, but most importantly, it's like everything combos in Rogue. Everything combos. SI7 agents, eviscerates, they're not going away. So having that ability to consistently have cheap activators is so important. And then toxin cards themselves are good. It's like deal 3 damage or something. It's like, that's great. Or deal 2 damage. It's like equivalent to some 1-mana spells. Zeril does something really important, is that she gives you ability to spend your mana and synergize with your deck simultaneously. Violet Teacher is great with this. If you play Gadgets and Auctioneer, you can do that. Very, very flexible. And the cool thing is that all those toxins give you different scenarios. So once again, you're gonna have to adapt based off the options given. The only thing I don't like is that it's 4 mana, and you're already gonna be competitive. Like, say you want to play South Sea Squidface, you want to play Violet Teacher, you definitely want to play Tomb Pillager. Tomb Pillager is one of the best 4-drops right now in the game. After standard hits. It's going to get really clogged at the 4-mana slot for Rogue, so they're going to have to make some cuts in some departments. Shadowcaster, choose a friendly minion, add a 1/1 copy to your hand that costs 1. I'm not sure if I see. Oh wait, add a copy of it to your hand that costs 1. Oh, okay. I thought it was like summon a 1/1 copy. Huh. You know, it's again one of those things. It's just like you're keeping your card count high and cheap activators. Plus, you don't know. You get a 1/1 SI7 agent that deals 2 damage. You get like, you play Shadowcaster on Zeril. That's insane. What? Okay, I actually really like this card. I really like this card. Shadowcaster, I think, is really cool. But does it really belong in a game like Hearthstone, or does it belong in, like, Summoner's War? Just look at this art! It's like a Valentine's Day special. Special skin. She's not corrupted by the old gods at all. Not bad. Definitely candidate for the waifu tier list. Thistletea, draw a card. Add 2 extra copies of it to your hand. This doesn't feel like it'd be any better than Sprint. For 1 more mana, I get to consistently draw what I want. Thistletea, the only reason why Thistletea doesn't feel good on paper is because it's like Chromagus. You don't get to choose what you draw extra copies of, and so you just sometimes don't get the right stuff. Versus Sprint will most likely like play into what you want, because you're more likely to draw into it. It's like, oh, I need an Eviscerate. I'll Sprint. I have like 12 cards remaining. I have a high chance of drawing like one of the 2 Eviscerates. That makes more sense. Thistletea's like, oh god, I really hope the next card I draw is really important, and that's never in a good spot. But I think it is kind of funny that even a cup of tea, even a freaking beverage that you get at the inn, is corrupted by the gods. There's no one is safe. That's what's pretty funny about this card's art and lore. And I think this is the last one. Finally, Blade of Cthulhu. Blade of Cthulhu, destroy a minion, has attack and health to Cthulhu. I want to say this card is crazy good, but I do look at 9 mana and just like, whoa, that's a lot. Destroying a minion is a very powerful effect, and adding attack and health to Cthulhu feels very strong, but I don't know if Rogue is that kind. Well, I mean, it is a very good card. Like, don't get me wrong, it's a very good card. Like, it's amazing tempo. It destroys any minion. So if your opponent plays a Ragnaros, you kill it. They play a Ysera, you kill it. And not important, more than that, you also develop 4/4, and you get to buff your Cthulhu. I'm just like worried that it doesn't fit the Rogue game plan. Like, Rogue definitely, with this card alone, makes Rogue Cthulhu like a thing, right? That you really want to push for, but I don't know. Like, I feel like with these cards, Shadowcaster, Zeril, Undercity Huckster, it doesn't feel like you want to push Rogue in that direction. I mean, who knows? Maybe you just build a completely different Rogue deck. At least on paper, this feels good. And you know what? Even in an arena, if you drafted this isn't actually that bad. You get to destroy, and it's actually like a comeback mechanic. Pretty solid. By the way, cards like Zeril and stuff, and South Sea, it's like in arena, those also are pretty powerful cards. Yeah, I think Blade of Cthulhu's like one of those things where I think it's either pretty good or just like not even relevant because Rogue Cthulhu isn't a thing. Kind of like Beast Druid, right? Like some of those Beast cards, like wow, it gives you a Beast like +3 attack and Wild Walk. It's like 4. That's like insane. It's like you think, oh, that's really good, but then there's like Beast Druid is not a thing, so it's like all right, never mind.